What's up, guys? Keegan Hipgrave here, and welcome back to the Keegan and Company podcast. In this episode, we are talking to one of the great men, Ryan Clark, also known as Whippet. You might know him from Bondi Rescue or Home and Away as a childhood star. In this episode, we talk about a variety of really cool topics. Childhood bullying, which isn't so cool, but it was cool to get his perspective about how he overcame that. Overcoming fear, and I guess what he's been doing, like when he wants to surf big waves or doing these really gnarly challenges when it comes to Ironman, or when he crossed the English Channel, which was over 40 kilometers, nearly 10 hours in the ocean, doing hard things, obviously. And just, the big part that I really got out of it was around family and building confidence in your kids, and I guess being the role model for them. Anyway, really impressive conversation. If you guys are new to the podcast, could I get you to hit that little like and subscribe button on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on, whether it's, Apple, YouTube, Spotify. It is a really great way for us to grow this podcast, grow this platform, and just have some incredible conversations like we had today. Guys, enjoy the episode. Ryan Clark, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, it felt kind of weird saying Ryan Clark. I felt like I've never actually called you by your real name. Whippet.
Only school teachers and my mum pretty much call me that. Yeah, Whippet's it's stuck. And I think it's here for the long haul.
Where did it come from?
Mate, it came when I was in my teenage years. I was so skinny, ridiculous. I went away on a trip with a bunch of older boys from Maroubra and from Bronte, where I grew up, and it just stuck. From there, they called me Whippet, like one of those greyhound dogs. Yeah. I wasn't fast, but I was just skinny.
You're lean.
Yeah, I was just skinny. So, and it was kind of one of those, in your teenage years, when nicknames are getting thrown out and some are sticking, and I'm looking at mates going, I don't want that nickname. I sort of looked, I was like, it's not too bad. And I got home, my mum was like, why are people calling you this? And I was like, oh, it's just because I'm skinny. And she's like, oh, that's probably better than what you could get just from, behavioural traits.
You might have gone the other way. You might have been a bit larger as well. Yeah. So Whippet's not a bad shout.
Yeah. So, and then as I got older, I put on a bit, but the name stuck. So
gotcha. Right. Mate, how was growing up in Bronte? Well, we're obviously here on the Gold Coast, and I'm keen to talk about the whole thing. But growing up, Bronte, what was that like, man?
Unreal. Yeah. Really, it was a really good place to grow up, and I love the place. I love a lot of the people that are still there. Unfortunately, just with the way Sydney is, a lot of people have moved out of the area that I care about a lot. But yeah, it was such a fun place to grow up, and I'll be forever grateful that I grew up in the age that I did, before phones, before too many rules and regulations, and being such a condensed little beach. And we lived right near the beach there. It was just all my mates would come through my house to go surfing, and fish and chip shop down the road, $2 for chips and a Slurpee, and mate, we could spend 10 hours a day down there.
But I could imagine the little troublemakers that you guys would have been in growing up, just little surf rats, right?
Yeah, and so you surf all day. You've got the gully up the back there, that big kind of beautiful park area, and you just running amok, skateboarding, riding bikes, having a ball.
What was your favourite part about growing up there?
I think just the community. Yeah. It's a really, really tight community. And when I was younger, a lot of the guys were just tradies. It was just pretty standard. You'd work, surf, hang out at the beach, and I could turn up on a Saturday morning at, go play footy or something, and then get to the beach at 9:30, 10, and there'd be 30 of the boys sitting there, and we'd be there together from when I was 10 years old up to 40, 50-year-olds, all just sitting together. And
really?
Yeah, the older boys really looked after us when we were young. I mean, they give you a bit of grommet abuse, but they look after you as well. So I always felt really safe, and it was just a good place to grow up.
Mate, that'd be cool having mates who are not just your age to knock around with, but 18, 19, and you said even 40 years old. What do you reckon, how do you reckon that helped you grow up?
I think it just gave you a sense of security, down there. I didn't have the most normal childhood, I guess, doing a bit of TV stuff. And so I just felt safe. And my brother's 5 years older than me. So apart from them belting you as a kid and, making you do stuff, it was just a really fun place. And I think it just teaches you a lot about respecting your elders. Yeah. And it's something that I feel is missing in today's society pretty badly, is that kind of hierarchy of society. And I think a lot of people these days don't really respect their elders enough, and they don't kind of learn their place. They kind of, a lot of young kids are pretty quick to shoot their mouth off without realizing that, hang on, mate, you're going to be in that position one day. And so that for me was a really grounding place, but just fun. We had so much fun.
Yeah, I wonder when that shift was, because we saw it in footy. Like when we first came into grade, like there was that hierarchy. Elders, like you just wouldn't speak out of turn because you'd probably get clipped. To be honest.
Well, I think when people weren't allowed to clip people,
maybe that's
pretty much when it stopped.
Society has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But even now, like the young kids that are coming through, like, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, because look at the success a lot of the guys are having, in terms of like confidence and being able to do their own thing, but like super lippy, like, and just an outward. I don't know if it's probably some are arrogant, some are confident, like balance of the two potentially.
I just think it's, you see it in footy these days, especially now that they can't do any more than just grab a jersey. It's, the amount of mouthing off and stuff. Like I remember talking to Willie Mason one time, and he said, mate, if I did that when I first came into grade footy, I would have got knocked out. Yeah. And he's 6'5" and one of the, the biggest dudes on the field. I just feel now that you can get away with it, and you can kids can kind of, it's like even with the poor cops, like you can't touch me, you can't do this. It's like, well, 20 years ago they would have just.
And there's no phones,
right?
right?
No phones, no body cameras. It would just give you a clip, and you probably learnt your lesson better that way.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, times are changing. Mate, you mentioned the TV stuff. Obviously, like, for those who don't know, big home and away guy, which like, and to be honest, I had no idea, because I knew you before you moved up to the Goldie and we started knocking around. I knew you from Bondi Rescue. Yeah, that's probably where I knew you from. And then when you were up here, started hearing about like the home and away stuff, and you started doing a lot of like acting as a child. Yeah, how does that even start? Like, how do you even get into something like that?
It was it was definitely a different way to grow up, and it wasn't something that I ever planned on. It actually came because, like, a set of brothers that I'm really close with, one's my older brother's age and one's kind of my age. Yeah. They got a day off school and $50 to drink cordial and do that Coddy's Cordial Lab where they ran through the grass. My dad, mate, picks the fruit, whatever that was. And me and my brother and that were like, $50, day off school, we're in. Yeah, sign us up. And it was literally like a month later that my agent was like, there's an audition, go for it. It'll just be a good experience. I couldn't even read. Yeah. Like, I was 6-7 years old. So when the script came, I'm like, I don't even know what those words are. So mum helped me like kind of learn the script, and I went in, they had 300 kids from around Australia go for it, and then that came down to 50 and we went again, and then down to 6, and I thought it was going to be 5 weeks. Like, that's what I signed on for at the start, and ended up doing 9 years at home and away, and then did a few other things after. And it wasn't ever a dream of mine to be an actor, but I just kind of fell into it.
What was the highlight of that? Like looking back on that, do you look back on that with like positive memories?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think for me, looking back, it was just an awesome experience, and I'm a big fan of just like experiences. If a door opens, take it, see what happens. If it doesn't, if it shuts, who cares? But that one opened and stayed open for me for a while. So, it was a really positive. I mean, back in the day, I just was like, I don't even go to school. This is epic. You got a job when you were 7 until I was 16. So I didn't do a lot of school at school. Like, I had a tutor and stuff and did a lot of homeschool. But for me, looking back, I'm grateful for the people I met and the experiences I had and the way it shaped me, I guess, to who I am today.
Because I am curious, like, growing up, I was having this conversation with Mary Fowler when we were in the UK recently, because she grew up, she was still like, I guess, like finding herself and becoming an adult as like the Matilda stuff and all her fame came to. How do you go, because you were so young, still figuring out life is who you are, trying to like navigating puberty, but also doing that in the spotlight. How'd you manage that?
Yeah, it definitely had its ups and downs. Yeah. And I think probably the worst part of it was bullying. Yeah. Like, I'm a pretty confident guy, and I'm really okay and confident with who I am. I don't really feel like I need to impress anyone or anything, but I've gotten better with that later in life. So as a kid, everyone's got that self-consciousness about them, and I was kind of one of only a handful of kids on TV. Yeah. So there wasn't all these streaming things. There wasn't TikTok or YouTube famous kids or any of that. It was just, if you're on TV, you were kind of really put out there, and it was an easy target for a lot of people. So, yeah, I copped a lot of shit growing up, and, you know, whether that was verbal or physical or whatever.
Yeah, really.
But again, like same before, growing up in Bronte where I had my older brother and a lot of tight community, like everyone looked after me so well. So it was sort of like if I ever needed help, I always had, you know, a whole bunch of guys keen to help out.
Help me paint a picture of what it looks like, because you said you got like the older boys in the crew that you were knocking around with, that you'd be surfing with. Is this just like guys from school? Like,
just
what did it look like?
Anyone from Bronte, like where it's like so tight down there, like whether you went to the school I went to, Marsland College, or Waverley or Ramwick or one of the anything. If you lived in Bronte or you surfed at Bronte, you kind of just spent your days there, and it just, you know, like it's that cliche, you know, it's like, you know, for kids that didn't have brothers, I guess it was like having brothers. I already had one, but you've just got so many close mates, and they were always there for you, especially through my teenage years when I guess you'd get targeted a lot at parties and stuff like that. So yeah, you end up, you know, needing them, and you know, having that safety net was really, really beneficial for me. And I always look back at it, and I still wouldn't change any of it, even with all the shit I copped or whatever. But I always look back at it, and I'm grateful that I chose to be who I was, like on TV and stuff like that. Kids that get bullied don't have that choice. So it's like, you know, I look back and I go, yeah, but I could have stopped it, or I could have, and I didn't, because I loved doing what I was doing. But the kids that get bullied for other reasons, they've got no choice in it, and they cop it, and I feel so sorry for them, knowing a bit what it was like, but nowhere near what a lot of other kids cop.
Mate, it's a cool perspective, because and it's cool the way you talk about it in a positive manner. You're like, I wouldn't change it, because I'm guessing you're probably the person who you are today based off all the shit, right? But I think a lot of the people who might have been in not similar positions, but probably more so like that bullied, or they couldn't get out of it, but they're like, I don't have a choice, and they look at it with really negative, I guess, like connotations. Or what would you say to, like, I don't know, what advice would you give to young kids who are like might be in a similar position, not just in childhood, but like just bullying in general? Like, what do you tell like your kids or Nixon? Like,
yeah, it's so tough, because I guess every situation is so different, and you know, bullying unfortunately is so prominent these days, and most of the time, unfortunately, it's online. And so they don't. You know, they can't escape it. Like when I was there, if I didn't want to be bullied or didn't want to have anything, I could either not go to a party where I knew there'd be some certain people at, or, but yeah, I don't know. I just think you've got to try and pick, you know, for me, it was easy. I was getting bullied because of something I loved doing, and it was a positive. I was not going to school, and I was making money, and I was like, all these things. I'm like, you can say what you like. I've actually got it better than you. But that was a way, So like for kids these days, I just, you know, it's just try and stick it out there, because it always can change. And, you know, like when you're young, everything seems like such a big deal, and it's so hard. And so, so many things to navigate, but some of that shit that you cop when you're little, or you think about when you're young, means nothing once you leave that school, or you finish that year and you don't have to deal with it. Like, I know I still look back. I've got mates now that are like close mates that I used to play footy against. And before we went to high school together, I'd be out on the field and they'd be like, there's that kid from home and away. Everyone, smash the kid from home and away.
Man.
And I'd be like, sweet, let's go. I don't mind, like, you know, in fun jest like that. I was like, bring it on. We're on the footy field. Let's go. But it's, and now some of them are my closest mates, and we still laugh about it. And they're like, but we just wanted to smash you because you're on TV. Hopefully see you on TV with a black eye.
Because of me.
So
that's cool. That's so interesting. And I think like, I imagine, I even talking to like young kids as well, like they're just so excited to leave school, because, you know, that's like they're out, that's their ticket out. I remember I heard this analogy where it's just like, think of like when you're in like the thick of it, like when you're like really stressed out, you might be getting bullied, you might be just in a tough time in general. Take this to life. It's kind of like a dark tunnel, and there's like that light at the end. So you can either pull up a chair and just sit in it, or you can take the right actions and move forward and walk out of the tunnel, because it's gonna end eventually.
And it will, and time will, you know, always change your situation as well. Or you can, you know, as we get older, I heard a really good quote the other day, and it was like, what you aren't changing, you're choosing. And so like, if you're not actively going about making your situation different or whatever, you're choosing to stay in it. And that's in all forms of life, I guess. 100%. But I learn it the most, I reckon, as a parent, like when we moved to the Goldie.
Yeah.
And my kids were at a small school in Sydney where they knew everyone and they had cousins and all that. And we came up here and they came home from school and they were crying and like, I got no friends and I got none of this. And it was so hard to watch. But it also was a really positive for me. I'm like, well, they're going to grow from it. I was like, my eldest, he's a little bit shyer than my second one. He came home and goes, I've got a new best friend and this and that. Like, but my eldest was like, I sat by myself for like a week and it was hard to watch, but I'm like, it'll also teach him a bit of empathy. And now I encourage them when a new kid comes to school, be that kid who makes it easier for them.
Yeah. It's like, well, like, it's almost just like what you were saying before about doing a hard thing, apply that to your kids as well.
Yeah.
That's got to be so heartbreaking when like your little ones
horrible.
come home, you're like, fuck, have I done the right thing?
Yeah,
like, is this the right decision?
Yeah,
Like,
and my wife and I, we're up late at night talking about it and we're like, no, it will be. We just got to ride it out and things will get better. And now the kids are happier than they've ever been and they're thriving at school. And, like a lot of that comes down to their teachers. And my eldest had the best teacher he's ever had at his school now. And it changed his whole approach to school. So for that, I'll be forever grateful.
why'd you come to the Goldie?
Mate, it was just a bit of a decision. I don't know. I was like, I went from 30 to 40.
Yeah.
In Sydney, I was lifeguarding. I owned a couple of gyms. Had 3 kids. It all went so fast, and I was like, I watched Jerry Lopez's surf movie, and I went with my dad actually, and I was like, I said to my dad after, I was like, I swear I need something just to break up, like the same pattern of life. You see so many people go from mid-20s to like 50, and then they go, what have I done for 25 years?
It's almost like to get out of the bubble, like get out of your bubble.
I think like the eastern suburbs is a bubble. Like, and when you're in it, you don't realise that everyone's moving at such a fast pace. And I tried to do a lap around the country, like in the caravan, and that didn't work with my wife's work. And then I was like, let's go to Bali for 6 months, and then we'll enrol the kids in a school over there. And luckily, we're in a position where we had some options, and then. She's from here. I lived here when I was 20 and I met my wife then, so like 21 years ago.
Easy sell.
Yeah, and I was like, well, why don't we just go to the Goldie for a year? And it took about 3 seconds and she was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Really?
Yeah, and because her mum and dad and her brother are here, so
I
was like, sweet, done. We'll move up here. And within about 3 weeks, 1 year was like, well, we'll definitely stay for 2. And now there's a good chance we'll never go back.
Mate, still, and well, you can also dip in, like you just got back from Sydney on the weekend. Yeah. Mate, it's an hour flight turnaround. It's so easy. Like I lived in Sydney for a couple of years. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It's great. I can dip in when I want, but I love the Gold Coast, bro. It's so awesome.
It's such a real, I feel up here, everyone's got like an extra hour in their day. So like, when you go past someone you know, they've always got like a few minutes to stop and talk or say hello or whatever. Like, it's just a little bit slower than Sydney, but as you say, like I can jump on a plane and be down there and in the middle of the hustle and bustle and catching up with all my mates and then trying to get on a plane hungover to come back up to Goldie.
The voice has recovered. So
I couldn't even speak when I got home on the weekend.
Hey, I do want to stay on the family, like kids topic, and I actually have a voice memo from one of your mates.
Yes, Whip. Time to get deep, buddy. As far as I'm concerned, you're an incredible friend to so many and a wonderful father and husband as well. What are your top 3 pieces of advice for someone just beginning their journey into fatherhood?
He's a good man, that one.
Really great man.
He is one of the best. Top 3 pieces of advice. 1, it's not going to be easy. But it'll be the most rewarding, if that makes, like for all the shit you put up with a newborn and like kids when they're young, you definitely get more out of that than anything else. Well, I do personally.
How so? I
just think the joy you get back from kids, and now that they're getting that little bit older, watching them learn new skills and start to navigate life, I enjoy watching that. Like my little one's 4 and he's just started riding a bike and a skateboard, so I love watching that. My older ones are surfing and even just navigating, I get so much out of watching them. So that's pretty good. I guess the other one's not to take it for granted because so many people can't do it. And the last one's do your best to give your partner time as well because it soaks up so much of your time being a dad, especially like of 1 or 2. For people that have twins or more, I don't know how you do it. But it takes up a lot of your time. So try and find that bit of time for yourself. And I read something the other day and it said, people, or something along the lines of like parents who feel selfish for giving themselves time are actually being the most selfless they can be, and especially when it comes to your health or fitness. Find that little half an hour, go do what you need to do because you're a better person for it.
Yeah, and you probably show up better for your kids as
Yeah.
well. And even like all the stuff that you do around like your physical challenges, which I'm keen to talk about, even just the way you operate in community and stuff, like I imagine your kids are like, maybe they're not like, I've got a cool dad, but it's also like they can see you putting in the hard work, the way you like obviously very humble, like not like knocking around with other people in community. Like I think those things are special. I was listening to a podcast on this guy, I think his name's Paul Carter, NBA player. He's in like the player union, I guess, but he talks about like, if I was just playing and I would go to the training, my kids would never see me actually put in the hard work, and so they would just see dad go away. But then he's like, so I started taking my kids to training, and like they would see the hard work that I was doing. I would take them out in the public. They would see how I'd communicate with other people in the public. So when I see with you and like, going surfing with Nixon and going hanging out with your other two kids, it's like, that's just like setting a bit of an example for them on how it should, like you should probably operate in society, right?
Yeah, and I think like you don't realize how much, I guess from my childhood, you see what your parents do and you take in parts of what they do and you're always watching as a kid. And so I'm trying to be conscious of that as a dad to always, like 100%, I'm certainly ain't a perfect dad, but, and there's heaps of times when you don't show up as your best self or whatever, but doing those little things in front of my kids and getting them involved in doing them. Like I've, got the gym set up at home and I'm in the gym with the kids all the time. And even if it's just wrestling or playing around or me training, them watching or them doing something and I just kind of watch or whatever, like I think instilling those work ethics in all aspects of your life, not just work. Like people can go and grind at work and I'm so respectful of that. And but I get more out of grinding in training or setting myself a real big goal and kind of scaring the shit out of myself with like, oh, now I've got to go do it. But yeah, then you got to work, and I think my kids have seen me do that. And I think I get more out of the process of achieving a big goal than probably achieving the goal itself. Yeah. So I hope my kids learn from that.
Mate, that's cool. How do you think you build confidence in your kids? Because I look at your young boy in the last cyclone swell, charging like looks like solid and look like they're super comfortable. Obviously they're out and about all the time. Like how do you go? Like is that something that you think about, like building confidence in them, or is that just something that naturally comes through?
I think a lot of it naturally comes to certain kids. Like it's funny. My two older ones, like my little one's he's only 4 still. He's just a menace. I'm not quite sure what he's going to be yet. But my older two couldn't be more different. And I wonder how that happens when they grow up, same mum and dad, same house, very similar environment. Yes, the first child's probably a bit different to the second because there's only one of them. But yeah, my oldest one, like in the ocean, I've never seen him scared. Wow. And I've seen him in some pretty bad situations and I've never seen him panic. It's weird. It's like, I used to tell him when he was a real little kid, like, because when I first started, I said, it's just water. It won't hurt you. You just got to relax and you'll be fine. And his mum, like around Alfred, Cyclone Alfred, I had him out on the jet ski and we're towing in at the alley. And his mum hates it. Like my wife, she's like, why do you have to take him out there? It's too big. And I'm like, he loves it. And he goes, Mum, it's just water. And I'd said that to him probably 10 years ago. And he was like, he would have been 2 or 3 when I started saying that to him. And now he says it to his mum. So, he's always been super confident in that way. But get him to try and sit here and like read something to you or like get up in school and have to talk about his weekend. He's like, nah. So that's not where his confidence lies. So, but my second one, he's probably not as confident in the water. He's gotten a lot better and he's surfing all the time. But, stick him on a footy field or a soccer field and he's really, really talented. Put him up in the class. He could get up and do a monologue for 10 minutes. Wow. And he wouldn't care. He'd do it in front of 100 people. He's just got a different type of confidence. And I think I think as a parent, like you've got to work on your kids' weaknesses in a way that's fun.
Yeah.
And I think, trying to just make them realize that it's not a weakness, it's just how they're wired, but you can always work on it. And Mark Matthews said a really good thing in his talk, and he said you've got to want it more than you fear it. And I think if you can instill that in kids, if they want something bad, then they've got to want it more than they're scared of it, and then that'll get them to push through that fear. And before you know it, some of the quietest people in the room can be the loudest, and that's not alcohol induced, but they can become the most confident speakers or the best speakers or writers, when they weren't that good at school. I think everyone can just work on their weaknesses.
Mate, that's so cool. Because I think about it all the time, especially when we interview obviously like other athletes from other fields in NRL and AFL and the Olympic sport, especially the Olympics, because they're super niche, and there's only a handful in Australia, the world, that can do what they do, right? And so I'm always thinking, I was just like, well, was it hard work that got you there, or did you have positive success as a kid that gave you confidence to keep going and to really dial in on your craft? And I don't know, I feel like it's a balance between the two, because it's like you got one kid who's probably not that good, but they work fucking hard on it, and so they want to get it. But then there's the other naturally gifted kid, and we've all seen naturally gifted kids that potentially just waste away. But but when you get the two of them mixed together, it's like it's a force to be reckoned with, right?
I think I'm certainly no athlete in terms of that level of footy player or who's played at the top of their sport, but it's like business. Anyone that you speak to, hard work, 100%. Whatever it is that you want to achieve if you want more money, go and work harder. In your office or whatever. If you want to be healthier, train more and eat better. You've got to put the effort in. Then there's natural talent, which is in all forms. Some kids are freakish. You've seen it in footy, in under 12s they could be playing 16s and still carving up whatever. But I think a bit of luck. And that's in business. It's in sport. Somewhere along the way, generally a little bit of luck goes your way, and that might be the chance where you win an event, or you get picked in a footy team or whatever, and that gives you the confidence to kind of go, actually, maybe I can do this. And once those wheels start to get in motion, people can take it as far as they want. And I was lucky enough, Safi,
one of the greats.
From training. She lived with us last year for the year while she was here on the Goldie, and she was always traveling, and she was going to the Olympics. And she was, obviously you're questioning yourself, you're nervous, you're all this. It was in Tahiti at Chopu. It's one of the gnarliest waves in the world, and I was lucky enough to go over and train with her, and I took Nixon. So we had a week over there surfing, and I said to her, whatever happens, just remember, you're 1%, less than 1% of the world can. I think it's 0.4% of the world or whatever can ever say they even went to an Olympics. So enjoy the process. If the results come, that's a bonus. Work hard, whatever. But whatever you do in life, you got to try and enjoy the process of getting to any success you've got.
Do you think you had that awareness when you were going through Bondi Rescue, when you were having success later in life? Were you aware of enjoying the process, or do you look back and probably that went quick?
Yeah, definitely. Everything goes quick. And that's the one thing I always say to younger people. I spend a lot of time with teenagers. I think mentally we get along so well.
We're very aligned.
But I always say just sort of enjoy it. And someone said it to me at my wedding, and they said, whatever you do, just get Gina and go and sit and just sort of look around for 5 minutes and enjoy that moment. And I think in life you have to do that every now and then. And everything goes so fast. Feels like 5 years ago that I was 20. And now I'm in my 40s.
You're still looking good, mate.
You're
still looking.
Heaps of moisturiser. But it's one of those things. You got to stop and enjoy the moment as much as you can in life, because a lot of people don't. And they get to a point and they go, where did it all go?
Since having kids, how do you think your views on masculinity and managing emotions has changed? Do you think that's changed at all?
Not. I've always been a super emotional person. I can cry. People, when I was on Home and Away, or done acting stuff, people were like, how do you just cry? And I'm like, I can cry quite easily.
Gotcha.
So for me, crying in pub, I used to try and hide it a lot, at a wedding or a funeral or whatever, but now everyone I know knows that I'm just a crier. So I don't even care anymore. I'm just a grown man who can cry wherever. But if something, and I'm the worst, probably watching like the Olympics or something, like seeing someone achieve or something like that just gets me going. So with the boys, I've got 3 sons, so like it's navigating what that life would look like rather than, I've got 2 sisters and I've got nieces, so I try and be conscious of both sides of it. But I think with the kids, it's like, I think we've lost maybe a bit too much of masculinity in our society.
Yeah.
I want them to be boys, and I want them to feel like when they grow up, that being a man's man and doing things that were predominantly or old school manly is not a bad thing. But if something upsets you, let it out. Like, don't hold it in. And I think that's a huge push in today's society is talking about things that, are either getting people down or emotionally, whatever. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And the last few years, I've had a lot of time with Harry Garside, training at the gym in Sydney, and he was up the other week visiting, and I think there's no one more in tune with being the most masculine. He's a boxer and he can punch the shit out of most of the people that walk into a ring with him.
Yeah.
But he's also can be the most feminine guy I know. Yeah. And I love that about him, and he spent a lot of time with my kids, and he's people like that are a great influence that you can be both. Yeah. And that's what I'd love my boys to grow up with that empathetic side and that soft side to them, but also not be afraid of whatever comes their way.
Man, I love that, because to be honest, man, like this podcast it's really around like encouraging conversation and encouraging men to speak, but I never want it to be around like nullifying masculinity and not gonna like the boys that we knocked around with, like whether it's playing footy or surfing or just being like kids and being boys and having that there, like even like the guys that we knock around with this morning at Alley Cats. You know, Alley Cats is this author, which I'm keen to talk to you about. Heap of just like cool older guys down to like the younger crew, and everyone's going for it, right? They're training, they've got their own businesses, they've got their own work, whatever it is. But then afterwards, like go back, have a coffee afterwards. Everyone's talking about what's going on, might be talking about origin or what's happening in life. And I think that's really healthy to see. Yeah. And it's kind of like when you're talking about when growing up in Bronte, you're a kid, but then you also had the older boys that you could learn from as well. Yeah. So I think there's something in that.
Yeah, and I think it's naturally ingrained in men to be like protective and to like, for those around you, like if the boys had a little sister or something, I'd want them to be so protective of her if anything ever happened. And again, I'm not, like I'd never encourage like conflict of any sort, but if it's there, I certainly wouldn't want my boys to sort of shy away from it or to be scared of that or think that that's not normal. Because like if you look around any other animal, like that's how their whole society works. And I watch my kids fight at home and or even with their mates when it gets like a little bit more than playful, and I'm like, let it go. Like they're just working out their little spot in the hierarchy, and sometimes the little one will land a good shot on the big one. And it's like, well, you asked for it.
Well, you also don't know the line is until you cross it, right? Yeah. Like, and then when you cross the line, you're like, oh, maybe I went too far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think, finding that balance between being a bloke's bloke and then being kind and empathetic and that softer side. I want, like, my best mates have got both those sides, and that's why I think you get along so well, because you can see them when they're vulnerable, or they can be there for other people when they're vulnerable, but they're also as blokey blokes as you'll get.
Man, I love that. I think that ties into like the next part of the conversation that I'm keen to talk about is like doing hard things and doing things that really push yourself. You mentioned it before, but recently we've had some really cool conversations, like especially overseas. We did a guy called Ollie Marchon, who's like a gym guy, really good business dude, but played like rugby for England sevens, and some just like a guy called Benji Haldon and Justin Canusi, and these are just guys who are like killing it in the business space. Like they've got their own businesses and they're crushing it, but they're also like really kind, empathetic guys, but they're also like dogs when it comes to training, like killing it in like ultra marathon spaces, high rocks, marathon, like whatever their thing is, and they're crushing it. And I don't know, I'm starting to see like a similarity between a lot of guys who I looked up to, maybe just because it's where I'm at, but they have their thing, but they also do physical feats as well. Yeah. And that's why I'm keen to talk to you, because, you've done Ironman, you've done triathlons, you crossed the English Channel, which I am keen to dive into. Mate, why do you do these hard things?
For me, it's like there's two reasons. Like one, a lot of the time, if I'm doing something big, I'll do it to raise money for charity. And I think that's just something because I guess I've had a bit of a platform. Like Bondi Rescue, was kind of around at a good time for Instagram and whatever. So I feel that I can use that social media for that kind of positive side and to get a message out there or whatever. But selfishly, I just love like being in those places like where nothing else matters apart from what you're doing right then. And I love that. I love like challenging yourself to the point where you're scared. And it's like, I don't surf like big waves, but like when it gets big, I like to go out and feel that fear. I like to sign up for like an Ironman or something, and I've never ridden a bike. I'd never ridden like a triathlon bike before I'd signed up for it. So I was like, I've got to learn how to do that. The English Channel was like, without a doubt, the biggest one, and that was the one that put the most fear in me.
Yeah, tell me about that. How did that shape up?
I had like when I was a kid, I saw Susie Moroney do it, I guess, and I was like, wow, that looks ridiculous. And it was always one of those things that just looked unattainable, like physically, logistically, everything. And then I had two mates sign up for it, and it ended up being the year of like COVID, and so they had to train. No pools were open, and I watched them grind it out, and I was just so impressed, and I was so proud of them. And one of them, unfortunately, didn't get across, and I was sitting there and with about 6 beers worth of confidence, watching it with a few other mates. One of them just looked at me and goes, "You're going to try, aren't you?" And I was like, "Well, if it suits and he's going to sign up again, then I'll give him someone to train with and I'll do it." And once I'd said it, I can't not follow through with it. Really? So I signed up, and my wife was like, "What are you doing, you idiot? Like, why would you do that?"
But surely you're a good swimmer, right?
Yeah, I can swim. You can swim. And it wasn't like I didn't do a lot of squad swimming as a kid.
Yeah.
And I barely made the swim team, like maybe in a relay or something like that. I wasn't fast, but I've got a good engine. It's like the Ironman. It's like the Molokai crossing paddle. Anything I do, I've got I've got a speed, and I can pretty much do it for as long as I want.
Like a big diesel truck.
Yeah, and it's sort of like if I feel myself, I know I can just keep going, and I don't get cardio tired. Like I don't get out of breath very easy. So once it came to the swimming, it was like you just got to do it, and you just got to build up the muscles and the like the endurance in your muscles. And I gave myself like a good year of training, and Murph Renford, whose dad was the king of the channel, Des Renford, he kind of came on as my coach, and he was some weeks disgusted in how little I did, but other weeks was like, "Fuck you, I'm proud of you for being able to just punch out that 10K. And the worst thing about that is it's cold. Yeah. Everything you do, you swim the whole way through winter in your Speedos, and it's freezing. So mentally, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, but I got so much out of the process. Like the day I did it was tough. 9 hours and 40 in the water. It's cold.
How many kilometers?
40 Ks for me. So it just depends on the tides as how far, but when you go with the tide one way, you kind of come back quicker. So it all changes. Everybody's conditions are different. I was lucky to get good conditions. And did it. I had Reedy, who gave the voice message before, as my support guy, and Murph on the boat. So like there was no way I wasn't going to stop. And I'd already said to Reedy, like, it's either France or hospital. Like I'm not stopping. And we raised, over 100 grand for Ocean Heroes.
Who's on this weekend?
Yes, who's on this weekend on the Goldie.
Great man, Sammy.
And that was our goal, was to get Ocean Heroes, which is a beautiful organisation that takes children living with autism surfing from the West Coast to the East Coast. And we knew if we raised like around 100 grand, Luke and myself, another mate, then we could make that happen. And so we did whatever we had to do to make that happen. And for me, that was swimming the channel. And that was my driving force. Yeah. So and my kids, like they were back in England. So like I couldn't come back to them without doing it.
Yeah. What do you think was harder, the actual day swimming, or was it the training and the lead up?
Looking back, without a doubt, the training.
Yeah.
Like the day itself, I had a good day. I felt good. I did vomit on the way to the start line. I had a gel and it didn't go down right, and so I vomited up everything I'd eaten that morning. Everything I'd eaten was out. So I was like, I'm starting on empty here, but I just felt good and I felt strong mentally. And yeah, don't get me wrong. Like when you're in the middle of the two and a shipping container's going past, I was shitting myself. Like, you're in the shipping lane and you know you can't really see land either way. I was scared, but like I sort of embraced that fear and was like, run with it, like enjoy it and be scared. Let yourself be scared, but you're not stopping. And maybe just swim a bit quicker and it'll be over. But yeah, looking back, getting up at 4 a.m. and going swimming in the dark at Brighton Le Sands in Botany Bay, inside the shark nets till it got light, and then swimming along the shore for 4 hours in winter is some of the worst mornings I've ever had. I was just lucky I had good people that signed up to train with me, that would train with me and help me.
What are the things that you do to overcome that like bad little thoughts that are going through your head? Like you got two little people talking on your shoulders, right? You got that good angel and the little devil. Like how do you overcome that little devil in your ear?
I think for me with the English Channel, the biggest thing was fear. Fear of failure. And I didn't want to fail. Like I just I didn't really give myself, that wasn't an option really in my head. So every time I didn't want to train, or if I was whinging about how cold it was, I was like, well, what's going to be worse? This next 4 hours or living with the fact that you've got to go back and do it again? And that was, like I'd already said to my wife, I said, if I don't make it, I'm booking again. And she's like, no, you're not.
You better get across.
Well, then you don't get out of the water until you get to France. Those sorts of things for me are the driving factor. And nothing like is that hard that you should ever mentally tap out before you physically tap out. And I think I've been lucky with that to have a good mental strength. When it comes to my body and how far I can push it, I know that my body will keep going. So if I can keep my mind in the game, then my body will keep going.
Do you think that's something that certain people just have, or do you think you can build that capacity?
I think certain people have it, but certain people, people can build it, certainly. I mean, look at Ned Brockman or whatever. Yeah, he's got it up here, and he had it that day when he told his mum he was going to run to town to get milk. And he ran 60 Ks or whatever it was to get milk, but his body couldn't have run across Australia then. But he could build it up through hard work and tenaciousness. And, I always look at people doing stuff like that and then get itchy feet. What am I going to do next?
It's fun.
But my knees wouldn't let me do anything on land that's too long. But get me in the water and I'll give it a crack.
Mate, I did I did 50 Ks a couple of weeks ago, and
I watched.
And at the 30, I think it was at the 30 kilometer mark, knee blew up, and I was like, first thought, I was just like, might have to DNF. Started thinking about the message I was going to write on Instagram, justifying why I couldn't do it. Like all those little thoughts came into my head, and I was like, you came all this way to finish it up. And I was like hobbling. It wasn't like and I don't know what happened, but then the last 20K was like a 10K decline. So it blows your quads into a 10K uphill, 1,000 stairs to finish. And I was like, give it another hour. And if you can't do it, then like maybe tap out then. But then I got on the straight and I realized like I could just get through on the straights. But then any sort of incline that it would start hurting me, I was like, I can keep taking another step. And so once I had that in my head, I was just like, same thing. I was just like, your knee might be busted by the end of this, but like you just got to finish.
And how many Panadols did you have, or painkillers?
I didn't have any.
I didn't have any. That was your first mistake.
I know.
Failed to prepare for the pain.
That's right. Well, to me, everyone was so nice. I was just like, I'll have a couple of gels. There was actually one girl, her name's Samantha Gash. She's she's done some incredible ultra runs, ultra marathons, like multi-days. And we just happened to run into her with like 15 Ks to go. And she was like our little rock, man. She was just like, she's like, you're not sitting down. If you sit down, it'll seize up. You're done. Have some Coke. Got all like the fizz out of it. She's like, this will make your head clear. So you'll be, and all those little things. And I was like, thank you so much. Like, so grateful for that. But I think doing hard things is good, especially as we get older. Like that guy, Ollie Marchon, who I was telling you about, he's just like, mate, I've got to keep feeding the dog. Like, like I was like, I don't want to be a little puppy. Like I want to go after it. And so that's why he does it. So,
and I think like, if you're wired that way, like I've got mates that go, that doesn't faze me and it doesn't interest me to even do like the city to surf. And I'm like, come on, mate, it's a fun day and we can go and have beers after and whatever. And
Yeah.
But they don't get anything out of it, whereas I get a lot of self-satisfaction out of like feeling the pain, getting through it and ticking that box at the end of the day. And selfishly, I get to kind of sit in that content space for a little while, and it might not be that long depending on what I've done, but yeah, like something like the channel, that gave me that content space for quite a while.
Mate, tell me about you mentioned before, which is just sticking in my head, about like overcoming fear. You mentioned when you were like, sometimes when it gets big, you're like, oh, I'll just go out to try and like test myself.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
I don't know. There's something about being scared that's like, it's a fear, like, you know, anxiety and fear, I find it like two different things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like anxiety kind of creeps up on you and you feel it and it's an uneasy feeling, whereas that fear, like where you're shitting yourself, it's like I don't know, it's something, it's almost, you know, I can see why people get addicted to like jumping out of planes and doing all that. They love that adrenaline rush. And for me, it's like that. Like I enjoy pushing myself, and I don't go out with an intention of being something better than I am, but I want to see where my limits are in everything, you know, and that's, you know, when I skydived, I found that was pretty much my limit. Like I didn't bungee jumping, but I'll always want to give it a go just to see how I react when I get to that point of fear. And I don't know. I lost a friend a few years ago, and one of his last things that he put up was like, do something every day that scares you. Excuse me.
That's right, mate.
But I think in life we try and avoid too much of that up and down. And I think for me personally, I get so much out of being shit scared, overcoming it, feeling good. And it's not something I chase daily, but it's just something that every now and then I like to push myself. And I think, you know, we can all get better with managing fear. And I think in life in general, and I think even for my kids to see it, it's another big reason to keep pushing yourself.
Yeah. Mate, tell me, if you don't mind, like about your friend. Like, I think it's special being able to celebrate someone who's been a big part of our lives. Like,
it was just, he actually moved to the eastern suburbs like later in life. I didn't grow up with him, whatever, but him and his brother, and he fought a long battle with cancer. And I have to cut a bit of this down.
We can edit. We can edit whatever you need out. Mate.
Yeah,
like,
just watching the battle is brutal.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, you've got to, you know, one thing I took from it was, you know, like your mate said, you want to push yourself and you want to be in that fight. And I think for me, it just comes down to getting the most out of life.
Right. Mate, it's like, it's such a hard thing, right? Like when you've got someone that you love so much and they're going through fucking something that's just like horrible that no one should go through. It's I think like, well, what do we do? A lot of the time it's just being there for them, right?
Yeah. And I think like I've been so lucky in terms of, you know, you hear so many horrific stories, and I grew up in an area with some loose units, and you know, you hear all these horrific, where a whole group of mates will die in a car crash or whatever, and I've been so lucky not to have any of those major catastrophes in life, apart from, you know, naturally losing people along the way. But I think you realise how short a time we're here for and how much you got to make the most of it.
It's like, it's just such a good reminder to just spend time with people you love. Fucking like celebrate those little moments. Like even what you said before is like, it just keeps sticking with me, like enjoying like the journey. And when I think of enjoying the journey, it means like sitting with like friends and family and not being in such a fucking rush to like get shit done or like chase the next thing. Like I think that's a big thing I'm starting to learn now. Whereas it's like the job and the thing is going to be there.
Yeah.
But like the family, like spending time with your family. Like
that's something I've had so much more up here is time with the kids.
Yeah.
You know, working less than I was in Sydney, but just prioritising, you know, a morning surf, or, you know, even the alley cats training for me is a huge part of my week, because we get up early, we get the physical part of it done, and then we spend half an hour just chatting and talking shit, and everyone's got a different story or a different thing they're going through. So I just love actually trying to make time and have time for that. And I think the other thing, like coming up here, there was obviously anxiety of what am I going to do? Like, and then I sort of started that, and it's filled a hole of like, because I had the gyms in Sydney, so that community side of being there and training with people all the time was always there, and filling it up here has been a great like little bonus for me. So yeah, that's always a blessing to get up and just to sort of an athlete, I don't know, was it Volk or someone said like adversity is like a blessing. Like the fact that you've got the opportunity, even if it's, you know, not all adversity is good obviously, but yeah, like the fact that you've got the chance to get through it or whatever is unreal, because not everyone's here to keep doing it.
Yeah. I think my first podcast that I ever did was with Mac Horton, the swimmer, and he's just like, yeah, man, pressure is a privilege. Yeah. He's just like, it's not a lot of people get to be in that position to do it. And so he's like, he used the newspaper analogy. He's like, you can pick it up and you can read it, or you can just put it under your arm and just get on with it. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm so intrigued with athletes as well, is like listening to one with Nathan Cleary. And I remember him saying something about like he felt like he wasn't worthy of like kind of being where he is. Like he's going to go down as one of the greatest footballers to ever play the game. Look at what he's achieved when he's young, but there's still doubt. Yeah. Like, you know, and you can be winning premierships and you're still doubting yourself. Like, I think that, like, for people to be able to overcome that and just, as you say, like, just get on with it, keep pushing through, and then finally, you know, kind of come out feeling like they are. Yeah. Mate, hopefully he dominates tonight. Yeah, hopefully not, bro. On the other side of the fence. Yeah. Mate, how important do you think, like, having a good support network, or not even support, but just, like, mates around? Like, I heard on a podcast that you said recently around, like, you're really open to, like, letting people come into your life even later in life, because I think a lot of the times, you know, we have our mates that we grew up with, that we went to school with, and we did all those things with, and they can just kind of stay. Yeah. You mentioned something around like being open to letting people come into your life now. For sure. What are your thoughts around that? It's something that I've learned as I've gotten older, and I mean, you can't be angry at yourself when you're young because you don't know any better, and you also think when you're young that what's happening that moment and who you're with is the be all and end all, because you're having the best time of your life when you're in your teens and whatever. Yeah. But as I've gotten older, so many like really valuable people have come into my life and either shown me something that I didn't know I needed to know, or been there when you needed it, whatever. Like, I think just always being open to receive, like, you know, that whole thing of I've got enough friends in my phone, I don't need any more, like, is the worst attitude you could ever have. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely looked at myself and gone, hang on, but you're being that guy, like you're not giving someone else a big enough go or whatever. But I reckon, like, you know, I guess it's like I'm lucky. I've been with my wife for 21 years or whatever now. I made a very good choice there, and I'm glad she made the same one. But, so I've got that side of my life is so content and all that. So friendship wise, I look at it like I've made some amazing mates like yourself up here, and people that I could ring and count on if you needed them. But I'll still always have my mates I grew up with, and that will never change. But it's the people that come into your life later that might take you down a little bit of a different path, or show you something that you didn't know you needed to know. I think that's so crucial to continuing our growth and to keep growing as a person. Like, and it changes the way you look at certain things, and it also can give you like really good perspective of where you are, and someone else might be struggling a lot more, but they're still a legend, and you're like, if they can be that grateful just for punching out the day, why can't I be more appreciative of the situation or the things that I do have? Yeah, I like those little conversations where someone's potentially been through something similar, right? Like, I think you mentioned your friend who had really struggled with cancer, right? And we had a friend, his name's Chase. He came on the podcast. He went through cancer when he was like 16. Well, he was I forgot how old he was. He was young when he went through it. He overcame it, but he was really open and vulnerable on the podcast about his own experiences with chemo, even coming out of chemo, and how how shit it actually is, and learning how to do all these things again. He's like, I'm not sure if I can drink this. I'm not sure if I can eat this. I'm not sure like what it looks like to go to a party or surf or whatever. But he's like, mate, the responses that he got from other kids or people who have been in the same boat, they're like, fuck, like, I didn't even know I could get on the other side of it. And even more so for the friends and family who are in that support, like in that shitty situation, on learning how to support them or what might help them. I think those conversations are so important. That's why I love this thing, to be able to like, I guess like broadcast those types of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, you know, one person's experience can be so, like, such a good teaching for other people. And it's like, you know, I just look, I'm a healthy guy, and I can, if I want to, I can go and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You know, like physically or whatever, I can set myself a challenge. People don't have that ability. So I think you've always got to be grateful for what you do have, or what you can go and do, rather than thinking about, oh, I can't do this because of this or whatever. Like, you know, I've got mates that have had organ transplants, and, you know, Adam, who was at training this morning, he's had 2 liver transplants.
Really?
Yeah.
No idea.
And he's now healthy enough to be back out training. So even though like he can't push himself to where he was when we were young, he can still, you know, get out and do the things that he loves doing. And so that's why I always, you know, my biggest thing to people is just get off your ass and go and do something. If it makes you happy, go and do it.
Yeah, brother, I love that. And I've loved this conversation, man. Bro,
Appreciate it. Excuse the tears. I
Mate.
told you I was an open. Told you I was an easy crier.
Mate, before we're finishing up, is there anything that you want to touch on that you don't think we mentioned that you'd like to touch on before we wrap it up?
Mate, just not really. I guess just say thanks for having me on, and appreciate what yourself and other people in this, you know, on these platforms are doing for everyone out there that might be struggling or need that little bit of inspiration or a kick up the arse. I know I listen to podcasts because I get it all the time, and it makes me, if I'm on the lounge, it might make me get off the lounge and go to the gym, or it might make me go for a run, or put it in and go for a run, and it'll make me run 10Ks, not 5. You know, all that. You know, looking for people for inspiration never stops. So I think you're doing that really well. So
well, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate you for saying that. And man, I just appreciate the way you're operating at the moment. Like, ever since coming to the Goldie, it's been so sick getting to know you, like doing the trail runs and the alley cats. And I do want to pick your brain about the Ironman, because it's something I'm flirting with.
Do it.
Do
it. Just sign up and then you have to do it.
Yeah. Well, mate, I am really grateful for you, bro. And I'm excited for like what the next couple of years looks like for you, brother.
I'm blessed to be in a good place, in a good space. And so, happy days.
Love that, bro.